So Jules, tell me that shit.
Yeah.
Alright, so basically the story goes that in the early 1800s...
Warrnambool wasn't much. It was another pioneer town on the coast, home to whaling, drinking, and shipwrecking. In January of 1836, 2 shipwrecked sailors swam to shore some 5 miles east of Port Fairy. They were lost, without maps or roads, so they began to walk back along the dunes. They were halfway home when they stopped. And they stopped for this. The wreckage of an ancient ship high up in the dunes and made from a dark wood like mahogany. The ship looked as though it had been there for hundreds of years, but in a part of the country settled for less than 5. How was this possible? The sailors reported their find, and the papers took the story. There was speculation that it was a Dutch or a Portuguese vessel from the age of Columbus. What was it doing here? What happened to the crew? And what did this mean for our history?
And the sad thing is, yes, they can't find the ship. It got buried in the sand dunes, but there were sort of various eyewitness reports and, I don't know, newspaper articles about it all through the 1800s, and then they reckon it just got buried in the sand.
If anyone's going to find it, it will be us.
Yeah, imagine that.
What was the
Hang on, fuck around.
Victorian government, they're offering $25,000 to anyone who can find it.
Whoa. Ah.
Imagine if we all just got $5,000 for this.
This map's based on one drawn up during a survey by the Royal Navy in 1872, and the person who amended a little has included a bearing.
I guess there have been lots of searches here?
Well, that's the general area that people have searched for. About 10 kilometres of coastline.
Okay.
No one was sure where it came from. You could write your own, you could paint your own canvas with it. And so you get these extreme ones of Phoenician. Now, the Phoenicians were the great seafarers, the Mediterranean, about 1200 BC and onwards. The theory some years ago it was a Chinese junk, one of the great treasure ships that sailed the world in the early 1400s. The Spanish, well, I don't see how a Spanish ship would do down here, but I think I'm rather interested in the Dutch aspect. That's one of the latest ones.
We're always going on in Australia and New Zealand about Captain Cook, as if he discovered Australia and New Zealand. Captain Cook came in 1770. The first Dutch voyage to discover a part of Australia was 1606. Now here you can see the route that the Portuguese would take to get to the Indies. You see clinging to the coast of Africa, and then across to India and on to the Indies. The Dutch did that to begin with, but then in 1610 the Dutch discovered on a given voyage that the shortest way was not necessarily the quickest way. Rather than doing that and going straight up to, in the most direct way, to the Indies, sail out here into the Indian Ocean down below 40 degrees of latitude, and the winds will pick you up and sweep you across. Then you need to go a certain distance beyond that, continuing east, before you turn and go northwards. And they couldn't measure that exactly, and so it was only going to be a matter of time before somebody went too far west and hit the coast of Western Australia.
Yeah.
The Mahogany ship, for example, were it to be Dutch, could well be one of these that simply kept sailing and got shipwrecked.
The chap called Ian McKeegan, he was the mathematician from Brighton, mid-70s, early 80s, he had 3 big searches, very methodical scientific searches, but he didn't find anything. That's John Sherwood, the scientist, looking in 1983, and he didn't find anything significant. Now, no one's found anything significant at all.
What do you think about the Mahogany ship? Plausible?
No, I'm very sceptical, particularly because no one seems to be able to find it anymore either. And no, I'm very, very sceptical.
Does it exist? Is it a real thing?
I reckon it does. If it was that long ago, there's a good chance it's buried by a bit of sand, and it'd be a bit like finding a needle in a haystack.
The Mahogany ship's a myth. It never happened, and it never will.
Fucking people out here are worse people. That's all we've shown.
I mean,
We haven't shown anything like that.
All we've shown is Pobs.
Hey, you holding the camera or not?
Shut the fuck up. They've got these animal-based animal instincts. Ugh, they're gross.
It was at McDonald's, yeah? Yeah. McDonald's had the Mahogany ship.
Why does everyone keep saying that?
Because it was there. Because it was there. That's where it was.
But it's good to have that sort of local myth. It generates tourism and a bit of mystique about the place. So I can understand why Warrnambool likes to keep the idea of the Mahogany ship alive.
This is our Caravel Notorious, which is a recreation of a 15th century Portuguese or Spanish caravel, which was typical of the ships that Columbus or Da Gama and Magellan and all of those people used to discover the New World. Well, this is the main deck here, which is where the 30 odd crew they would have carried on here would have slept.
30.
Wow.
They sailed off into the blue, absolutely oblivious of what was there. I mean, if you think of Columbus in 1492 sailing west from Europe and getting to present-day Dominican Republic and thinking that he got to the Indies, and he wasn't even halfway. I mention that simply because it emphasises just how ignorant they were, and therefore how courageous they must have been to have sailed off to the far corners of the earth knowing virtually nothing.
Say the Dutch or the Portuguese, whoever it was, they arrived here. What happened to the crew? I mean, this is the 1500s, the 1400s. They would have been the most isolated people in the world.
Well, there was some talk that the Aborigines adopted them. The Aborigines mentioned yellow people, the strangers who'd come here a long time ago. One elderly Aborigine mentioned about 1860, long before he was born.
There's even an Aboriginal tribe somewhere there in WA that has some sort of blood defect, which was very common in Holland at the time, which is in this particular Aboriginal tribe. And of course the theory runs is there's not Dutch shipwrecked sailors who intermingled with the Aborigines and whose bloodline is now their bloodline.
Is that yours?
Oh, that'd be cool. Thanks very much.
I don't think it's real.
You don't think it's real?
No.
There never was a ship?
No, I think there might have been, but like, I think it's been, the story's been built up to something that it's not. And like, I reckon there could have been a ship there at one stage, but I don't think it was this, ancient, mystical. How old did they say it was? 3,000?
Like, nah, 1500s, so
yeah,
500 years.
They found nothing to prove it, right? Like, I don't know why they keep looking for. The story seems to be pretty embellished,
It's definitely a highly embellished story.
It was just dead ends, the questions that you were asking, and you kind of just like stop him dead in his tracks because he really didn't know what to say or do.
But the search continues.
Is that frustrating?
It is a little, I mentioned, but some people prefer the mystique of the myth to continue.
I mean, if it found, would you lose interest?
Well, I think there might be still another one to find.